How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. It's another tier list video. I've not done one of these for a while, so I thought I would do a tier list of my bread and butter cheap car brands. Now, you'll know as much as the next person if you watch my channel that I love cheap car brands. I love cheap cars generally. It's what is basically my whole channel is built around cheap cars effectively. So hopefully my opinions on the brands will resonate with some of you, and I'm sure it won't with others of you. But let's not listen to me chat nonsense about it. You know what a tier list is, let's get straight into it. Oh, and don't get too offended. I promise I'm not trying to offend anyone. Feel free to debate with me in the comments down below, tell me why my opinion's wrong, but let's keep it respectful. In terms of like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Right, and we are straight into it with Suzuki, it looks like. I feel like Suzuki in the past made really good, cheap and cheerful cars. Like perfect first cars like the Swift, for example. They also make the Jimny and have done for many years, one of the coolest 4x4s you can get in my opinion. And they also make the Vitara, the world's most reliable car. My cat is about to join the video, it seems. All right, mate, how's it going? But yes, Suzuki made the Vitara, which is actually one of, if not the most reliable car on the roads at the moment. So yes, they make some really decent cheap cars from that perspective. Sometimes though, they seem to lack some of the features that other cars have. Like if you go back to the Swifts of the late 2000s and stuff that didn't have the auxiliary cords, like why? It was the first car without an aux cord. Why? So on my list, where would I put it? I'm probably gonna move these around a lot, but I'll put them in I would buy for now. Next up we have Dacia, or Dacia, however you want to say it. Dacia, the old Sandero. Very important point about Dacia. They are very cheap, cheerful and very reliable. They sit on under the Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi Alliance, that kind of stuff as well. So they are effectively like Renaults to some degree, but somehow a bit more reliable, at least on their like general manufacturer reliability rating, they're more reliable. They've been memed the life out of by Top Gear. How do I feel about Dacia? I would never buy one. I would never personally buy, that's not true. I'd buy a Sandero for the meme. I'd buy a Sandero for the meme, but that would be it. If it wasn't for the meme, I wouldn't buy one. So for that reason, I'll put them in meh. So apologies, you big Dacia fans. They're just not for me. I don't think they're a nah altogether because they do their job. They're exactly what you'd expect of them. They do what they say on the tin, but they're not for me. Mazda. Now, I actually really rate Mazda. Mazda of the past made some absolute icons that you know and love, I'm sure, like the RX-7, the Mazda MX-5 being basically like the gold standard of roadsters for many, many years. I don't see how I can't move Mazda up to be pretty high from the get-go. Obviously, RX-7s aren't cheap now, and Mazdas are relatively cheap compared to other roadsters in its class. But their actual cheap cars today are really nice, verging on being luxurious. I think they've really gone under the radar, and so for that reason, I'm going to put them in, I don't know if they are like the top tier of cheap cars. For now, I'm going to put them in pretty nice, but I might move them later. And I'm a Mazda owner, remember, so I'm trying not to be too aggressive with my bias here. How about Seat? Now, of the three VW group sets, so like the VW, Seat, and Skoda, I think Seat's the one I would have the least. I don't dislike Seat. I like the Ibiza, I like the Leon, I like the Boccanegra, whatever you want to call it as well. That's a pretty cool car. There's a few really cool Seats out there. And obviously all of the like Leon Sports and stuff that seem to just become like the fastest front-wheel drive cars around the Nürburgring for a brief period of time. They are all pretty sick as well. Obviously now a lot of that's turned over to being in Cupra instead. So then, and they're not necessarily that cheap. If I had to base it on like the VW Up, Skoda Citigo and Seat Me, I'd have the Citigo first, then the Up, then the Me. So for that reason, I'm going to put Seat in meh alongside Dacia or Dacia, whatever. On to Citroen or Citroen or however you say it in French. I have no idea, mate. I don't speak French. Didn't do it at school either. I did German, so I could do German instead. But Citroen, I think their current selection of cars is not very good. They've got a really like small selection right now, and pretty much all of them are 4x4s. I don't see them being like at the forefront of anything technical. They've kind of uprated their cars a bit, kind of alongside Peugeot, etc. Because you know like the PSA thing, all that kind of stuff. They now Stellantis, whatever they're called. Yeah, they're okay, but again, like I don't think they've got anything nice about them really today. I might be wrong. I need to maybe drive a couple just so I get a better experience. But I love old Citroens. Like the Saxo was such a cool car for such a long time. Similarly, the Zara, WRC Zara, obviously you can't think of Citroen without thinking of Sebastian Loeb, in my head at least, rallying legend. So I love Citroen of old. So as cheap cars, great. Not always amazing in terms of reliability, but they were much better than Peugeot from my perspective through the Peugeot bad years. So I'm going to put them in meh as well, and I'm going to put them above Dacia and Seat. Maybe Seat in front of Dacia. Yeah, that's probably my order in that. Because of old Citroens, they carry the brand for me. And onto one of my personal favourites. It's going to go straight to absolute weapons, Skoda. What a beast of a brand. Obviously, my first car was a Skoda Fabia Estate, which I absolutely adored. It did, however, fail on me a couple of times. It went wrong many times. But in general, it was a really good car. Everything that went wrong with it, you knew was going to go wrong with it. It was just a good car all around. And because of Skoda's, is it like Simply Smart or whatever it's called? I've forgotten the name of the thing. You can watch my old Skoda video and you'll find out what it is. But yeah, they do some really cool innovations around their cars. Like the kind of cars that have umbrellas in the door cards, that kind of stuff. I think Skoda really put a lot of effort into making cars that are really good for consumers. And then also like the Skoda that I drove in Switzerland a couple of years ago, I way preferred to the Mercedes A-Class that I drove in Switzerland this year. So for that reason, Skoda has to be an absolute weapons. They make some sick cars. The Superb is unreal. The Superb is in fact superb. Good, solid brand. Toyota. So I've got three things to say about Toyota. Thing one, reliability. Thing two, reliability. And thing three, reliability. This brand is just on a different level when it comes to reliability, and like you can't fault them for that. They make really, really good cars. They set the standard again in the industry for how you should build cars. Like they taught Porsche how to build cars. They literally went to them and were like, look, you guys are making cars this way, you're not making them well enough, more efficiently, you're not doing things as consistently as you could. You can make better cars more consistently and with better reliability if you built them this way. Watch one of my previous videos if you want to see more about that. But yeah, Toyota are an absolute beast of a brand from that perspective. They make some properly cool cars. Like the Toyota Hilux, the indestructible car on Top Gear, what a car. But unfortunately, they also made the Prius. And it feels like 9 times out of 10 when I'm held up by a car on the road, it is a Prius. I don't care about Prius being hybrids or anything like that. It's all good stuff for me. They have kind of also, I suppose from that perspective, they've also like spearheaded the move to making hybrid cars, etc., which is great. But they're always in my way. So for that reason, I'm going to move them down from absolute weapons to pretty nice above Mazda. Next, we have Fiat. Now, Fiat had a really horrible reputation for reliability. They were like renamed Fix It Again Tomorrow or whatever based on their name, etc. So yeah, none of their cars today are really for me. And most of their cars from yesterday also aren't for me. I like the Panda 100 HP. I like the Abarth, so like obviously all the different Abarth stuff, but that's kind of its own badge anyway. The 124 Spider is a really nice car, but again, it's just a Mazda MX-5, just rebadged and with a different body shell on it. So, would I buy? Probably not. I wouldn't buy a Fiat personally. Would I put them in nah? I'm too kind. I don't really want to say nah to a brand. But then I think that Fiat, there are no Fiats that I'd have, so I'll put them in nah for now. Sorry, Fiat. It's not personal. I just don't like any of the cars specifically that I'd have myself. And today they're making some really rubbish cars anyway, so the 500e is kind of cool, but I wouldn't have it. On to Ford. Now, Ford is a staple in the car world. It's like, you know, the whole strong and stable thing. I reckon Ford is like the definition of strong and stable from that perspective. Maybe not from a money point of view, but from a car perspective, yes, they are pretty good. The Fiesta and Focus in particular are pretty elite cars from that perspective, so it's hard to say anything bad about Ford from that point of view. Some boring cars generally, but again, we're talking about cheap car brands here. Old cars as well. Like, there's some really sick old cars, used cars that you can buy. Like, imagine you can get a Fiesta ST 150 for like nothing nowadays, like 3-4 grand tops to get into one of those like in quite good condition and whatever. So like, yeah, good brands, good cars, good cheap cars. It's got to be up there for me. I'm going to put Ford in pretty nice, I think. I'm going to put it behind Mazda because I think there are more Mazdas that I'd have than Fords in terms of like the cheap end of cars. but I would put it in pretty nice. So yeah, I rate Ford. Honda, similar story to Ford actually. Like, they got really good reliability, really good quality, and they've set a really reasonably high standard in the car world, particularly amongst us car people. So if you're watching this as a car person who watches my YouTube channel and likes cheap cars that you can buy and do whatever to, like the Civic EP3, why would you not go for one of those? Like, there are so many positives about an EP3 Type R. So maybe, yeah, if you're thinking about it from that perspective, they're cheap, they're cheerful, they're fast from the get-go, they rev out loads, they're cool little cars, and they're easily moddable as well. There are some cars that I don't like the Jazz, for example. The reason I don't like the Jazz is not for anything in particular, except for the fact that they keep knocking the wing mirrors off my car. So other than that, and then what else is there in the Honda lineup? I mean, loads of really cool old cars. I like the Accord Type R and stuff like that. There's some sick stuff they have. Today, maybe a little bit more boring, but I think a lot of cars from today are quite boring. So for that reason, I probably have to... yeah, I'm going to have to rethink the pretty nice area soon. But I think like Honda and Mazda are on a similar level in terms of like, I love the MX-5. I think it's a car that anyone can buy cheap and have a really good time in. Probably more so than some of the Hondas. So maybe I should go that way. And I'm putting Honda up there for that same reason. There's like the Type Rs that you can get into and whatever. So yeah, I rate Honda. Hyundai or Hyundai or whatever you want to call it. It's Hyundai, I think, by the actual pronunciation. They are very reliable. They are very useful, but a little bit boring from my perspective. There's not a car today from Hyundai that I'd have unless it's like the really cool stuff, like the N stuff, so the i20, i30 and that kind of stuff. So those things are really sick, and I love the concept cars that they've built. Some properly cool concept cars. My friend has a Kona, and it's actually a really nice car on the inside, like super nice inside. It doesn't interest me from the exterior point of view, but on the inside it is super nice, pretty plush, and so got some good tech in there too. So actually, for that reason, I would buy some Hyundais. That's the thing. Like, there are some cool Hyundais that I would buy. I wouldn't buy any of their super cheap stuff, is the only thing. I'll put them in I would buy because of the end stuff, but that's the only reason why I'd buy into one. And they're actually not bad cars. So yeah, pretty good. VW. So what I'm going to say about VW, I obviously own a Polo, but I think that VW, at least in Europe, they are cheap cars. They are cheap cars. Cheap cars are VW, as VW is cheap cars. Like, they are one and the same. I don't know how you can sort of tear the two things apart. They're called the VW, Volkswagen, people's car. They are cheap cars, and they do it well. And they have so many good offerings in the right space. The thing is that they're like vanilla ice cream. Like, you like vanilla ice cream. It's the basic stuff that you expect and you know and blah, blah, blah. And everything that goes wrong with vanilla ice cream, you kind of expect as well. You leave it on the sun too long, it goes a bit soft and whatever, or maybe it goes into being like a bit dribbly or whatever. You're still going to eat it. You like it. And I prefer Skoda, but Skodas are all just VWs anyway. So VW's going to go in absolute weapons. Because they set the standard for what cheap cars are, I guess, around the UK and Europe at least. Mini, so they have some really nice cars, some really nice cars. Like the Mini 1 is actually a good first car, particularly from like 2013, 2014, around about then. That's a properly nice first car. Cheap, cheerful, good to run, good to drive. Goes wrong in some places, which is a bit annoying. It's basically a BMW because it's owned by BMW. But yeah, I rate them as a brand. I think they're quite good. I don't like the badge because I'm a purist in old Minis, and these Minis are absolutely massive in comparison. But that's how all cars are going. Every car's going bigger. Everything is getting towards SUVs and whatever. Like, I've mentioned already that Citroen are basically doing an entire SUV lineup. So that's kind of what you expect. But they are nice cars. Like, they think about you, the driver, the passenger and stuff, and they make the insides quite nice for you to sit in as well. So I probably would buy a Mini. If I was going for a first car today, a Mini I'd be really happy with a Mini. I'm going to put them in I would buy. I probably buy them more than I buy a Suzuki, so we'll put them there. MG. I'm going to put it in nah. And the reason is, not because I'm pushing the brand to one side or anything, but who actually buys them today? Like, I know I've seen that they actually have some reasonably not bad looking new cars, like the MG3 and whatever. They're like nice and angular. They sort of have their own little space in the market, but I just don't know why I'd get one over, if I'm going for like a really cheap car that I don't care about like the car being pretty or whatever, I would just go for a Kia or something. Like, Kia would surely make the most sense. They have a 7-year warranty. I'm going to get onto Kia in a bit. But like, I don't know why I'd get an MG over those cars. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. And the old ones, there are some cool ones, like the ZR, etc. And the MG TF and that kind of stuff. They are cool cars. I'll put them above Fiat because I'll put them above Fiat because I like those old cars. Nissan, you gotta respect the history of Nissan because again, they've got some properly cool old stuff, but their new stuff is not that interesting. I don't like the Micra very much. If I was gonna get something on that body shell, I'd always get a Clio instead. So they're not really my personal favorite choice in this lineup. Really not a fan of all their cars today. Like sketchy offerings. Like the Nissan Leaf, what a horrible car. What a horrible car, in fact. Let's put that into meh. I'm gonna put it below Dacia as well, actually. So Dacia can go there, Nissan go there. Not nah, because of some of their old cars. I mean, like Skylines and stuff, which are not cheap cars in the slightest. But you gotta respect the history. Renault. Love the history. Love the history. Obviously, my dad's got the Renault 5 Maxi Turbo. Some of the concepts they're coming out with are very cool. And I like that they've now split off the Alpine side of the business as well to build like the really fast stuff. They've obviously still got like the RS line of cars as well, and I really like the like cheap cars you can get from like the 182, the 172 Clio. Both of those are unreal. The Megane, like the 225, all the more recent Meganes as well. Some of those are sitting at like the sub 8K range that are super nice. Yeah, I think Renault makes some really cool cars still. I did drive the Renault, whatever it's called the other day. Is it like Jar or something? I can't remember what it was. The one that's basically a Clio but made taller, and it was horrible. I drove it for like a whole week and it did the job, but it just felt so unnatural to drive, and I didn't understand why it was exactly the same size as a Clio but a bit taller. I don't know, not for me. But generally I would buy some old, in fact I buy a lot of old Renaults, so I'm going to put them, I put them above Ford because there are more old Renaults that I'd buy. The Clios, the Meganes in particular, I'd 100% buy. Vauxhall, there are some cool Vauxhalls as well, particularly in the older set of Vauxhalls. So the Corsa VXR, the Astra VXR, there's a Vera VXR, all that VXR region of like the mid 2000s. That was for me like a perfect era of Vauxhall. You go back a bit further, you've got some other cool Vauxhalls as well, or Opals and that kind of stuff. Yeah, probably cool. And then the Vauxhall VX220 as well. Those are all very cool cars. And it's not even just the past. Today, they're making some properly good cars. I drove the Vauxhall Corsa, the new one, for an entire week, and I'm hoping to make a video on it at some point. I didn't record when I had it, but hopefully I get another chance to drive it. It's one of the best new cars I've driven. Honestly, I was really gassed about that car. It was like driving a car from the mid-2000s, just with all of the benefits and positives of a car that you're driving today. I really, really like that car. I would almost put it on a level with the Skoda. In fact, I'd probably put it on a better. It was a better car than the Skoda Fabia that I drove in Switzerland that time. So yeah, I actually really highly rate Vauxhall. I wouldn't put them in the absolute weapons region. I would put them in pretty nice, particularly like today. I'll put them behind Renault. So actually, no, I think they're making more interesting cars than Renault. No, they're not. They're going to go behind Renault. That's fine. That's probably about where I put them. Volvo. I'm not going to do Volvo because I've realised whilst making this video that Volvo is actually a luxury car brand. Like, if you think about them, or they make premium cars. They more try to go against BMW, Audi, etc. So I'm going to ignore them for now. And finally, I'm going to talk about Kia. I drove the Picanto when I was in Cyprus, and I really didn't enjoy the driving experience of it. I also felt like now it's overpriced in terms of like being a used car. I can get cars with basically the same offerings for similar money, and it just felt like there were bits that were going wrong with it and that kind of stuff. It was one experience of a Kia. We had a Kia Rio as well when I went to Spain earlier this year. And that was much nicer, but it was blown out of the water, absolutely blown out of the water by the Vauxhall Corsa. Of course, they're slightly different price ranges, but only slightly different price ranges. Like the Kia Rio is like 14 grand new, and the Corsa is like 16 grand new. So you're spending 2 grand difference. And I think that the Corsa was a much nicer car from that point of view. But the 7-year manufacturer warranty is different gravy. And the fact that it passes from owner to owner, that means that like here in 2022, you can buy a 2015 Kia Picanto, let's say, and it will still be under warranty. That's pretty good. That's like a commitment to your reliability. I would put Kia in, and I mean, they're making some cool cars as well, like the Stinger GT and the Picanto GT, that kind of stuff. I would put Kia probably into, I'm going to put them in I would buy behind Mini, because they're not my favourite cars. I find them a bit boring. but the warranty, the reliability, etc., all very good. Now that is my list. I'm not going to fiddle with it. I was planning on fiddling with it, but I'm not gonna. I am too nice about brands in general, so even the NAS, there are going to be MGs that I'd own, and there are going to be Fiats that I would own, and I'm probably going to drive some MGs and Fiats on this channel and review them at some point, and I'll probably be like, these are sick. So that's just how I feel about cars. I really, really like cars, if that wasn't already obvious, and so yeah. That is my thought process. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. I'll also link this, if I can, in the description down below as well, so you can do your own tier list if you'd like to. Remember to hit the like button if you enjoy this kind of content. Subscribe as well if you're new here. Massive thanks to the page for their support, and to you guys as well for watching. I'll see you in the next one. By the way, I forgot Peugeot, and I would have put them into I Would Buy for their 1980 stuff and their today stuff, and then berated their stuff from the early 2000s. So there you go.